This is Paul for Redneck Sports. I believe that everybody should win in life, or at least attempt to. The first three maxims of General Robert Neyland's game maxims, I believe apply to everybody. The team that makes the fewest mistakes will win. Play for and make the breaks. When one comes your way, score. If at first the game or the breaks go against you, don't let up. Put on more steam. Welcome to the channel. Now let's discuss some sports. Like, subscribe, comment. Show what your opinion is. Let me know if you like what you've seen. And I thank you for your support. Take a look at all the sports teams that are out there. Almost none of them own their own stadiums. And this is a problem in multiple ways. Part of it's because of sports, part of it's because these are losing money for the cities and private investors that are putting their money into building them. And it should be paid attention to, because most people do not want their tax dollars continuously going into these stadiums. Why? Because it doesn't bring the benefit that they keep claiming that it does. Now, don't get me wrong. To be able to be a fan, say San Antonio Spurs, when they win a national championship, or the Chiefs, or whatever, but at the same time, this is money coming from the taxpayers a lot of times, going into these places, and the revenue is not making up for the billions of dollars that is being spent across the country. Now, we're going to investigate this a little bit. We're also going to talk about how this has been hurting women's sports as well. Let's start first with how this is affecting women's sports. The WNBA, which hasn't made any money until this season, was putting their sports players into high school arenas, whatever they could find, literally whatever they could find. Candace Parker just retired after almost 20 years in the WNBA. Wasn't quite 20 years, but close enough. And she said she never had her own locker room. Women's sports don't have their own training facilities. They don't have much of anything. Seriously, you're going to start a sports league, spend all this money to keep it afloat, and you're not going to provide the bare essentials to make sure that these teams are successful. Nobody thought of this. They were just an afterthought. And this has been affecting the women's leagues. You know, there are several women's leagues, but people don't pay attention to that. And this isn't a rant about women's sports in general. It's just a simple fact of that these teams, these owners expect the local area that they're putting these teams into to provide everything for them. This is hurting the sports. This is causing a bad opinion to be had. I mean, I'm pretty sure that the New York WNBA team would love to go to Madison Square Garden every time that they play a game, but they don't. They go to Barclays Center. It would be nice for them if, they actually had a locker to put their stuff into, to feel like they're at home. Even when they're at home, they're not at home because they don't have a home. They have stadiums that they play in regularly, but it's not their home. This is the owners doing this. They made a halfway commitment, and it's showing. That's the sad part. The owners are the ones that are at fault here. And we're seeing this. Now let's get into some of the stats. When it comes to stadiums, a majority of Americans, this is from Harris Poll, a majority of Americans, 54%, believe that stadiums should be mostly or fully paid for by private parties, namely the teams utilizing the stadiums. Think about that. What do you think? I know I think that the teams should put down roots. You take a look at San Diego Chargers, no longer the San Diego Chargers. The Rams, no longer the Rams. These teams keep moving around, and it's causing people to lose interest in them. I mean, yeah, Denver Broncos have always been at Denver. Cool. But what about these other teams that keep bouncing around? Only 11% of people think taxpayers should pay for most or all stadium costs. And that's true. For the simple fact of, if you take a look at the fact that between 1970 and 2020, state and local jurisdictions devoted almost 33 billion with a B in public funds to constructing these stadiums. Well, in the U.S. and Canada. They're counting Canada. But then again, though, we've got NBA teams there. We've got baseball teams there. And, of course, NHL. Let's not even go into NHL. And these teams are not making the money back for the local jurisdictions. They think, okay, if we own the stadium, then we can just create a tourist tax. That's what they keep telling people. And all that tourist tax does is cause people not to want to get a hotel room or rent cars there unless it's for business. And they keep losing money because property tax isn't getting paid, even when it's private investors going in on it. They usually give tax incentives that negate that. Local businesses don't grow. It creates an area that is making money, but overall does not help the city. And this is something that it just seriously needs to be examined, because I am pretty certain that Americans, and Canadians for that matter, are not wanting to continuously have to fork out money for teams that may leave in a few years. And that's the way it's starting to look. You're starting to see teams like the Rams, Chargers, all these other teams, the Raiders. Okay, maybe it's not the Rams, maybe it's the Raiders. But these teams keep moving. And it's not doing any good for the localities that have put millions upon millions of dollars into it. This is what people are starting to say and voice, and it's causing problems. Before I get too far into rambling about this, because, well, it's an issue that I think that every sports person, every sports fan should think about. Fan, personality, it should be a topic of discussion that we talk about more often. It is something that we should think about more often. And these owners of these teams need to start paying for these stadiums. They benefit from these stadiums. They are constantly paying millions of dollars to people who all they are entertainers. That's all they are. Some of them have good stories to talk about, but they're just entertainers. And as much as I love sports, I don't think that we should be footing the bill for everything that they do. This has been Paul with Redneck Sports. Y'all have a good day now.